Welcome to a special edition of HMS, Houston Media Source, Public Affairs, Public Access. Tonight we're going to do a live broadcast from the studio in Houston, but we've Skyped in people that are on the front lines of the battle going on in North Dakota. The rest of the media has been very negligent about covering this story in depth, and I don't think we can cover it in depth in 1 hour. But what we're going to do is we're going to give you voices of those involved and those at risk of the decisions made by our government relative to Indian water rights and Indian sacred grounds in violation of multiple treaties. So I hope you will sit back, call your friends, tell them to watch the show. We can be seen on Comcast Channel 17 and Xfinity Channel 17, or you can see us on the internet at www.hmstv.org. Just follow the links to live what's on the air. So thank you for watching. Can I have our guests? There we are. Hi.
Hey.
Hello. Tell us who you are.
Yate Tatnizanin Slay.
And you are, where are you?
I'm sorry?
Where are you?
Right now I am in Cannonball, North Dakota.
Cannonball, North Dakota. And how long have you been there?
Been going on about 3 months.
Okay, behind me runs a broad screen of a helicopter shot of the encampment. It is enormous. There are a whole lot of people there, right?
Yes.
A good many of them are indigenous people from there, and a good many of people have come there to support them. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, now you can answer my questions in full sentences. Tell me what's going on from your perspective.
What is going on is...
What is the issue? What generated all this?
Pipeline is going through Standing Rock Indian Reservation, which will be placing not only human life, but many walks of life in danger in the route and en route of oil to be passed through indigenous, sovereign, and even settler land.
And it crosses rivers and roads. And
yes, rivers. It's going through land, burial sites, livestock, just everything we depend on as human beings. What we need to survive is being placed in a monopoly for economic wealth and prosperity.
Where does the petroleum come from, and where is it going?
From right now, it is where is it? Bakken oil field. Going to Illinois.
Okay, where is that in relation to where you are, the oil field?
Northwest.
It's northwest of you. What's the distance from the origin of that oil?
1,150 miles about.
150 miles?
150?
Yeah.
I'm from Texas. I know about oil pipes and the dangers of their breaking and leaking and causing all kinds of problems. So we don't have to go into that because I understand that. But when that kind of sludge crosses sacred territory of the Native Americans, and when it goes through and interrupts the lives of First Americans, and when it pollutes the water that First Americans depend on, can you help us understand what that seems like from their perspective?
There's so much that you can touch on. It's such a broad question. Simply, we just got to keep the focus on the water. However, there's so many social issues and negative social conditions that come when you place a pipeline through a people's, I guess, upbringing, and where we've really had no else to be placed at. If we know, like, as we know, where we're at, reservations have always been prisoner of war camps, and we were moved and murdered on behalf of the natural resources we have strived upon. So modernly, now that we look at it, this is going to not only keep us as prisoners of war in an economical struggle, a power struggle, but also our ways of living. We live off the water and the lands. Everything that is being desecrated through this pipeline we survive from as Native people, being placed in isolated areas where we have no access to those of the dominant society outside of reservations and isolated areas.
Tell me what these people's lives were like before this interruption.
Prayer and ceremony. We've always walked in prayer and ceremony, and these waters and lands have always been who we are as Indigenous people and what we stand for.
What do you know about the invaders? Tell me what you know about the pipeline company.
They're very, very greedy. They don't think about the lives they are impacting. They have their conscious awareness on who we are and the history and the laws that they say that they abide by, which have been relevant to who we are to protect us, are being violated. So I really don't know what else way to say that they are breaking their own laws that they say that they follow by so much.
Well, by laws, aren't you talking about treaty arrangements that were done a long, long time ago with the federal government of the United States? And the invaders are actually not the government per se, but apparently they have a lot of influence on the government's use of power. So
Yeah.
They're sitting in offices somewhere in coats and ties and drinking corporate coffee.
Yeah. We're facing probably every institutional infrastructure is violating our rights at this time, from education to government to international law. And with the treaties that they have made, should really have no statute of limitations whatsoever. This is also a written contract is a written contract, and that's what those treaties are. And they really need to take a look at those, and also look at how they can look at it, how we can use that today. Right now it can be turned into a civil dispute. You go into any type of courtroom and you have someone make a written contract that they're held accountable for that contract. So, not only have the treaties been in place and constantly violated, we also got to look at how these institutions are also breaking our laws today on a state spectrum and a federal spectrum.
Well, since you have someone there from a legal team, I'm going to ask her to explain to me about the litigation that is ongoing to do the protection effort there. But I hope to get from you the cultural impact and the environmental dangers that are involved.
Our cultural impact is in jeopardy. Our traditional ways of living is why we're also here. Our ways of prayer and language is all at stake. Who we are to sustain our tribal identity and to pass it on to our next generations is being endangered right now because of these. And that's the hard barrier to get across this colonial structure, or people who have settled into this country. It's very hard to break them barriers of understanding, and how much our traditions are being decimated along with our lands and water.
Well,
by this pipeline.
Are your elders helping the young people understand their history and the impact on the culture of what is going on?
Yeah, our elders are why we're here. If it wasn't for their sacrifice, we would not be here right now. Without their lives being in danger, being through the cold, the long walks, the impacts of relocation and extermination, we wouldn't be here standing up. So there's a lot of cultural sensitivities that we need to also let the world know that we still have them, and they're still strong. And that's, when you have that taken from you, it's enough to make a stance for this.
Well, in my own family tradition, my family was run out of Georgia because we sided with the Cherokees in the administration of President Jackson. And the Cherokees won the Supreme Court case, but President Jackson ignored it and forced them on the Long March, the Trail of Tears. My ancestors, not being Native Americans, came to Texas. And then we were subsequently run out of that because we weren't secessionists or slavers. So I've got a long family history of being displaced because of Native American issues. And so it doesn't just affect you, it affects your neighbors.
Your lands, that's why.
Yeah. Okay, could you get the legal representative to come on so that I can talk with her about a few things? What we're doing is we're having a live report from North Dakota. What you see in the background is a helicopter view of the campsite where people have come from all over the country. A good many Native Americans from many tribes have come there to make a last stand against a forced invasion of their territory by a pipeline company who's bringing pretty crude, gross petroleum products that puts their land, their sacred sites, and their water at great jeopardy. Hi, who are you?
Hi, my name is Angela Bibbins, and I'm a licensed attorney from Colorado and Damakota. I'm Santee Dakota by heritage, and I'm a descendant of Chief Red Owl Hihanduta.
Well, I understand. It would seem logical that there are legal maneuvers going on virtually all the time. What is the legal team doing to protect these people's rights?
So yes, I'm the ground coordinator for the Water Protector Legal Collective, and we were invited by the Standing Rock Sioux tribe to provide legal support services for the water protectors when it became clear that it wasn't just going to be a handful of arrests that were going to be perpetrated by the Morton County Sheriff's Department. Now we are over 500 water protectors who are facing criminal charges in Morton and Burleigh County. And this is a mass arrest situation. We are backed by the National Lawyers Guild Mass Defense Committee. So we have a lot of expertise in camp and outside of camp to help support the water protectors. They're facing some pretty serious charges, which we believe are very specious, meaning that there is not really a factual foundation for many of the charges that have been brought forth, particularly by the Morton County State District Attorney's Office. Most notably, over 137 felonies were dropped recently by Judge Cynthia Phelan over the arrest scenario that occurred October 27th, the first confrontation on the North Bridge, where the treaty camp was destroyed. This camp was set up basically to protect the sacred sites that the Dakota Access Pipeline plowed through on September 3rd, the day that Apple Security had private security guards with dogs out there feloniously attacking my relatives and our allies with no legal intervention by the Morton County Sheriff's Department, whose vehicles were parked on a hill and witnessed the entire attack. And
So the initial confrontation was between mercenaries, private guard people,
exactly.
and did not directly involve the law enforcement agencies of the county. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm saying that that's correct. They were private actors with dogs who attacked, and that's a whole other level of spiritual injury, because dogs to Lakota Dakota people are sacred. They were our first companions before the Horse Nation came along. And we believe that, a dog who has a taste of blood, human blood, is no longer considered a friend and must be put down. This was horrendous on a lot of levels, not just emotional, physical, but also that spiritual and traditional level. And the Morton County Sheriff's Department had vehicles that were parked up on a hill where they could view the whole attack, and they did nothing to intervene. This was not an orchestrated, planned prayer confrontation. What happened was the water protectors on a routine basis would make a prayer march to the original work site where the first arrest occurred, and then walk back to camp. What they discovered when they did that on September 3rd is that the private security was up there guarding the Dakota Access workers as they were plowing through documented sacred sites. The day before, Tim Mentz, who's a private archaeologist who used to work for the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe in the Historic Preservation Office, had gone out to this private property, which had this easement for Dakota Access, and documented at least 26 grave sites and other significant formations, sacred sites. So for Lakotas, we mirror on the earth what we see in the sky. So the constellations are rock formations that have been created in certain ceremonial areas in the Dakota Lakota territory. So this is what was destroyed, and it was documented that about 40% of what had been cataloged is irrecoverable as a result of this pipeline. And so the treaty camp was set up in a response to sort of guard this crime scene that had occurred that day. And on October 27th, what happened was that this confrontation between Morton County Sheriff's Department, its assisting law enforcement agencies, many from out of state, had arrested 144 people and charged them with conspiracy to endanger by fire. People who were elders who were praying in the middle of the road, people who were several yards away from the front line where the blockade was put up by the Sheriff's Department, all were charged with felonies as a result.
This was a Morton County Sheriff's Department arrest sweep. Is that an accurate way to put that?
Yes. Oh, for sure.
And many people were charged with felonies. Were there lesser charges?
Everybody in that sweep was charged with one felony and 2 misdemeanors. And the misdemeanors were public nuisance and engaging in a riot.
And the conspiracy element, does that what it takes to elevate it to a felony offense?
Exactly. But the charging document from the Morton County State's attorney could not name one single water protector. So the charging document reads, the water protectors, not any particular person. So there was not even a scintilla of evidence that's required to prove probable cause as an evidentiary foundation for this charge. And therefore, Judge Phelan, like the rest of us who could see how specious this charge was, dismissed these charges en banc across the board for 137 water.
So you have some protection. Now listen, the last time I was up in that area, I was on a bus with a bunch of hippies. We were going from the car parking space to the rainbow gathering, and a sheriff pulled us over and told the driver she had to pay a fine, which he said, and I said, no, it takes another branch of government to assess a fine. You can't do that here. And so we
Well, there are
got,
certainly a lot of those kinds of pretext stops that we get. I answer the jail support and the legal support hotline, and we're getting all kinds of these calls where people have been stopped. And one water protector was told that his car, which was registered in Iowa, they couldn't verify the registration, so he was arrested. His car was impounded, and he had to be bailed out, and is facing this charge. And the whole thing had no foundation, that his car was in fact registered in Iowa. And now he has to go through the criminal process, have a court-appointed attorney to defend himself against this baseless charge.
well, how much help do you have up there? Do you have several lawyers that are able to do all this legwork? I see a lot of work going on.
Yeah, there is quite a lot of work. We have a huge network across the country and Canada. We've had Indigenous attorneys and ally attorneys in and out of the legal tent on Media Hill, and a whole network of attorneys that stay in touch and work on the civil suits that we have. We filed a civil action against the Morton County Sheriff's Department on Monday to an injunction to restrain them from the use of concussion and ballistic kinds of crowd control weaponry like rubber bullets, beanbag, concussion canisters, and other things that have caused near fatal injuries for our water protectors. They're absolutely dangerous for people who are praying. I said actually to one of the Morton County Sheriff's deputies, we brought sage and you brought snipers.
Well, I mean, with those kind of dangers, have provisions been made for health care and emergency treatment?
We have a fantastic medic council that have done an outstanding job of ensuring the safety and addressing the injuries of what happened. And I'll talk about November 20th because it was a horrendous display of an appalling display of the lack of concern and care for human life that night by the Morton County Sheriff's Department. I'm sure that you've heard by now what they did was unleash water cannons.
Yes, I saw pictures of that. It went all over the world, yeah. Yeah,
so over 300 people were considered casualties from that event. Most of them were hypothermic, exposed, wet, cold, had to be treated with, warming blankets and, got into a warm space so that they could regulate their body temperature. We had to have the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe enact their emergency relief plan by opening the gym where we're broadcasting from, so that there could be a place of shelter for people to seek refuge and spend the night, so that there could be additional treatment that didn't necessarily require an emergency room, because we have so many skilled medics in camp. And these are professional people. They're not just street medics. They're nurses. They're doctors. I talked to one of our doctors today who's making his way back here this weekend, who is a trauma surgeon. And, the level of professional services that our camp has built up over the 3 months that I've been here is just amazing. And this is one of the top 25 towns in North Dakota population-wise. And we have every service imaginable in camp now. We have a construction crew. We have, a tech crew. We have this great media resource. We have, medics. We have cooks. I've gotten my hair cut in camp. So these are like amazing things that have all come together to prove that Indigenous people can exercise sovereignty, that we don't need permission of the occupier to express our own Indigenous values in our own communities.
The news release this morning by the sheriff and the prosecutor was that bringing supplies into your camp would be a violation of the law punishable by a fine. I can see that there's no definition there. I mean, does a blanket in the front seat of a car constitute supplies? Does a bottle of water in a glove compartment constitute supplies? And they said the mandatory fine is $1,000, as if it was their position instead of the judicial branch position to set and assess fines. There's a whole lot of structural constitutional, governmental division problems there. Are you using the civil courts in a proactive way?
Yes, like with the injunction we filed on Monday, and we are preparing litigation around this particular issue. If it has to come to that, the Morgan County Sheriff's Department has since revised their statement that they're going to be stopping people, but we are collecting evidence about that. Today, I have counseled people who are trying to get through and understand what supply lines will be open to the camp. As far as I know, there is no law prohibiting anybody from traveling over a public road with a load of lumber. This is absolutely ludicrous. This is an unchecked use of authority that continues to rage in North Dakota, because it can, and that's not okay with the legal collective. It's not okay with many of the allies that we have created in the legal community across the country who are coming to assist us through the ACLU, through the Center for Constitutional Rights. These are all institutions that have their eye on what's going on here with the governor and the Morgan County Sheriff's Department.
You understand, Barrister, that your clients are under siege.
Oh, yes. I often say, and I say this quite humbly because, the expression in Dakota is Iktawiya. I am just a common woman. I have certain skills, and I put them to use for the aid of my relatives and my allies. And but what I do is I coordinate legal services in an army tent, now in a blizzard in a war zone. And I've been doing that for 3 months, and I am very honored to be able to serve in this way.
Well, you have a tradition of advocates in your profession that goes back generations. What would we do without the Thurgood Marshalls of this world? What would we do without the Ruth Bader Ginsburgs of this world? I want you to know that I honor your effort, and I want to congratulate you on your courage for doing it.
Pidamayaya, thank you.
Thank you. Find me an elder that I can talk to. And so here we are. We're doing a live report from the front lines. You just heard a lawyer explain the plight of her clients, the Lakota people, whose sacred grounds are being violated, whose water is being threatened for the greed of the petroleum industry. You might not know that it came out today that the President-elect of the United States has personal investments in that pipeline company. Over $250,000 of his personal money is invested in that corporation, and he's about to become the final arbiter in the administration of the United States government, and he has a conflict of interest in this case that is bigger than East Dallas. In addition to that, a guy that he is considering for the Secretary of Energy, former Texas Governor Perry, is on the board of this very same pipeline company. Their problems are manifold right now. They're wondering why the existing administration doesn't have more courage with their plight. And they're facing on January the 20th a change of the guard, where partners with the oil transport company, the pipeline company, are taking over the reins of the whole country. This is flashbacks to when the Cherokees were driven out of Georgia. And if you're not familiar with that history, it is readily available. Elder, who am I talking to?
I'm actually not an elder. However, I'm an Ukapapa Lakota.
Glad to have you, sir.
Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. My name is John Bigelow.
John Bigelow, I wish to express my admiration for the courage of your people and the leadership of your people for standing up against what appears to be overwhelming odds. From your perspective, what can you tell me about the evolution of this invasion?
Uh, the evolution of the invasion, I guess, started about 500 years ago. But the most recent edition of it was when they decided not to consult with our tribe when they rerouted this pipeline from north of Bismarck to they wanted to put it through our sovereign land, our treaty land, and right through our reservation.
They did not consult you in that?
The consultation issue is still being discussed. A lot of people are talking about what that word means as far as consultation. Is that an exchange of a couple of emails, or did they actually bring in the entire plan and talk with the tribal council, allow our people to comment on it? This consultation issue, I believe, is going to be one coming up in many, many places.
Describe what did happen.
I was not involved in a lot of those discussions. Those were being taken care of by other members of the tribal council and people who work for the tribe. However, my understanding is there was not proper or complete consultation done as far as what they were doing, where the pipeline was going to be laid. We had expressed concerns about many, many issues, and they were under basically no obligation to respond to them or make any accommodations for those things at all.
And in your mind, what should have happened?
This process probably should have taken at least a year longer. I don't know why the decision was made to reroute this pipeline from north of Bismarck down here towards our land, other than we're kind of used to kind of being trampled on that way. Our land is not valued in the mainstream society. Our culture, our sacred grounds, our sacred burial grounds are not recognized as a thing of value.
Mr. Bigelow, tell me something I need to know about the Lakota people.
Something you need to know about the Lakota people. We're deeply immersed in our culture still. After all of these years of basically active genocide and a genocide against our culture, we are still here. When our religion was outlawed back in the 1800s, we took it underground, we preserved it, we carried it forward for our children, and I'm the result of that. My grandfathers, my great-grandfathers maintained our traditions so we could be here today, living in this way, learning how to be human beings, walking on Mother Earth. Being Lakota means being one with the land around us, with all our beings. We have a saying. It's a homataquiasi, which means all of our relations. Whenever we pray or we talk about these sacred things, we acknowledge that we are related to everything. We're related to the four-leggeds, to the winged people, the creepy crawly things, the water, the grasses. Everything around us is related to us. They all give us things, and we try to respect that in our prayers and the way we walk the earth.
And you live in a part of the country where the weather is harsh, to wit, what it's like right now.
Correct.
You have a relatively short growing season. Are you an agricultural people? Do you practice agriculture there?
Traditionally, we were hunters.
Hunters and gatherers.
We were also gatherers. We did gather various plants. We did not plant them. We respected the way that the plants grew in their own way. So we were not imposing what we thought certain ways that the plants should grow. We allowed them to grow, and then we would gather parts of them and then allow those plants to continue to grow so that when we came back that next year, they would have more food. Same with the animals and such that we hunted. We did not take more than we needed. It was a supreme sacrifice for an animal to give his life for us to eat and for us to feed our children. So we respected that animal. We prayed for that animal. Every part of that being, that creature, was used respectfully. So as hunters and gatherers, we tried to live in a way that was in tune with the cycles of life. We did not take more than we needed. We only took what we needed, and we were very thankful and grateful for those things that we did have. This is not an easy country to live in or survive in. These are harsh conditions, but we've managed here for millennia, for thousands of years. So these ways of life, although not all of them still exist, we try to bring the good things from that forward, which is a respect for all the things around us.
Well, thank you so much for this insight. Now, the land, of course, before the interruption of the migration patterns of the indigenous animals, was a lot more plentiful than it has been since the incursion of civilization, as it is known by Western people.
Correct. I believe, it's my opinion, that some of those things were an active, conscious effort at genocide. They interrupted the natural flow of the buffalo. The buffalo was everything to us. It provided our clothes, our lodging, our meat, and the federal government, when they couldn't kill us out other ways, they attacked our food supply, and that made it very difficult for us here. We lost many, many relatives over many years because they kept taking our food away. They kept trying to quash our culture. So it was more plentiful a long time ago, but we're still here. We're still here.
Understanding that history, and thank you very much for sharing your understanding of that history, how do you find any optimism in front of what is just before you?
We have no choice. We're fighting for the last parts of our culture and our people. We're fighting for our children and for those children that are not yet born yet. We have no choice. When a people are, I've heard another elder, a real elder, say the other day, our back is up against the river now. Okay? We have no choice but to make a stand here and say no more. After 500 years of oppression and violations of every single type, violations of our rights, of our religious freedom, of our culture, of the core of our people has been attacked for centuries. We have no choice but to make a stand here and fight. And I think that message went out loud and clear. Obviously, there have been over 300 different tribes who have come here to support us. There are indigenous people that have traveled here from around the world because they understand that this fight is not just about a pipeline. It is about our very culture that we're trying to maintain and survive.
And have you seen the veterans that were supposed to have joined you over the last few days?
They're starting to trickle into camp. I know there's several more groups that will be coming tomorrow and the following days. I don't know the final numbers of people that will be coming in. In Lakota ways, we have a high regard for our warriors. And this has always been a difficult thing for people to understand.
Well,
Native
statistically,
peoples-
in fact, that first Americans are the first to volunteer and the first to fight when liberty is in jeopardy. And here they are. They're coming in in their tattered old uniforms and their fatigues, and they're joining their brothers in this front line. Is that how you see it?
We have a long tradition of honoring all who fight and all of our warriors. It doesn't matter how old they are or where they chose to serve. We hold them in the highest regard, our veterans. So I am personally very honored, humbled, and excited that all of these veterans are coming here to support us. We typically have a few that show up at our powwows and our different ceremonies and celebrations, but the numbers that could be coming in here in the next few days, it's really exciting for me.
Watching this story in the general news, I would have no idea about what the situation looks like through the eyes of the Lakota people. And I appreciate your bringing that view, and that your fellows that are also on this program bringing the view of your own perspective in a story that is being told as if the whole world is made up of Europeans who think like Europeans.
I agree.
And you do understand, in the last segue, I mentioned that President-elect Trump has over $250,000 worth of stock in the pipeline company that has invaded your territory. And that he is seriously considering former Governor Rick Perry from Texas to be his Secretary of Energy. And Rick Perry sits on the board of that pipeline. I hope your lawyers are aware of conflict of interest lawsuits, although they've never been filed or never been used against people at that level. That seems to me like they're set up to bring down the worst of the power of government against you.
We are prepared for that. I don't know which number president this is, 46, 47, 50. Doesn't really matter to me, in my opinion. There have been very few presidents that have been friendly to Native American issues over the 240 years of this country. So this next president, I don't see as being a whole lot different than a whole line of presidents who have signed treaties and made promises and broken every single one of them. This next president doesn't concern us. What concerns us is the water, our children, and our culture. And that's why we're here in this cold, in the snow, and we are going to fight. Just about everybody I talk to in camp, when these various issues come up, everyone's saying the same thing. We're not going anywhere. We're staying.
Well, I certainly admire the courage of you and your people, and I admire the tenacity of your lawyers. I've been impressed with everybody that I've had on the show, and young people there representing their interests. Is there anyone else whose voice I need to hear in this show?
Yeah, Red Hawk.
Red Hawk, okay. I met Red Hawk earlier. We did the warm-up with the camera. Hey, Red Hawk.
Hey, how are you?
I've been very impressed with the folks you brought us. You know, the trouble with this story outside of where you are is that it is told through European eyes, accepting European cultural norms. It is not told from the perspective of the Lakota culture and First Americans. And you have allowed me to expose my audience to that side of the story. And it's a whole different story than just a bunch of folks gathered like a rabble trying to stop progress in the country. It's about the land and the river and the sacred grounds and the ancestors and the future generations. That's the story you have brought me, and you have no idea how much I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Just trying to help spread the message of what's actually going on here, because a lot of the media that's covering what's happening here is often misconstruing it and not telling the truth on what's happening.
I don't think I don't think Red Hawk, they know how to cover it.
They know how to cover it. They were established off of true journalism. A lot of them are probably corrupt. A lot of the money that goes into companies specifically like CNN are probably also involved with companies like Dakota Access Pipeline. They just choose to ignore the situation because they don't want the general public knowing what's actually happening in their own country. And so that's why teams like us have come together to try to help spread the message to the people, because you can't trust big media anymore. Most of them are a sham. Now, there are a lot of groups, a lot of media that have come and that have supported, that have told
Yeah,
the truth.
Amy went up there and got busted. You know, my old buddy Amy Goodman. Yeah,
That's true.
She
but
looks
most of them
real
have
good
to
in
be-
handcuffs. I've seen that, and and she's got the courage to wear them.
Yep, I agree.
And whenever she covered the story from a different perspective, they bit her.
Mm-hmm. That is true. We've been having issues here at camp very often where Morton County sheriffs do target journalists here. They've I've watched them point at journalists that aren't even on the front lines, hoping to apprehend them so they can get the footage that's coming out of here. That is one of the many issues that come out of what's happening here at Standing Rock, is they're trying to silence the people. Freedom of press. You saw what happened with Amy Goodman when she was
Sure.
when she documented what happened with the dog attacks.
Sure.
You can't trust the big media anymore.
Sure, and she's now preparing a civil case for the inconvenience. And that's exactly what I do whenever I'm falsely arrested. We will go to court, we will air this, and I've sued Houston Police Department 5 times, and I've won 5 suits. So I know how to do that. And I've been in the front lines of Amy in Huntsville, Texas, around death row issues. But the deal is that that kind of journalists are rare where you are. Are there children in camp?
Yes, sir, there are.
What is happening about their education, about their training? What's happening to them?
There are children. There are schools set up for the children with professional teachers that are probably better than most of the teachers in Bismarck. Not afraid to say that.
Okay.
They've come around the world to teach the children, to help guide the children and teach them not only traditional education, but also Lakota ways and, indigenous education that's often ignored in public school systems.
And is there athletics? Is the whistles I'm hearing in the background somebody playing basketball? What's going on?
Nailed it right on the head. Exactly. Basketball going on right now.
There's nothing wrong with a few hoops, Red Wolf.
If you were here in Standing Rock right now, you would see people sliding down hills on sleds. People just keeping active. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, but everybody's there to pitch hands and work together. And the camp hasn't created its own official football league yet, but maybe we'll get there once the snow league lines up. But other than that, we didn't come here to play sports. We came to stop a pipeline.
As a matter of fact, one of my fellow activists in Houston is there, and he gives me regular bulletins, which I share with interactive media. Mike Allen, and he's a good activist. He's as sincere as they come. If you encounter him, give him my regards. Tell him I appreciate his bravery and his stamina in the cold, and I look forward to rebonding with him. But don't leave the picket line until your absence will not be a loss to it.
You speaking to me, sir?
I'm speaking. I want you to pass that to Mike, but I mean that for everybody in camp.
Yes, sir. I'll make sure he gets the message, and the camp gets that message as well. We're not leaving anytime soon. Even after the pipeline's dead, we'll stay. We have a lot to accomplish here, and it's just begun.
Well, I admire your work. I wished I weren't so crippled that I couldn't be there. And congratulations on your standing up for principle at personal risk. And I wish you the very best in the world.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And we're going to come back to the studio so I can talk to the audience alone. But
Sure.
that was our report from the front lines in North Dakota. You didn't hear that on CNN, and that's not the snippet that NBC is going to carry, or even the quick mention that Rachel Maddow is going to give you later tonight. Those are the real people. They're human beings. They were here before the rest of us even knew this place existed. And since they were here, they made peace with the land on which they live. That land is being invaded and damaged for the sake of greed of a handful of people who work in tall glass buildings and drink the best of beverages and wear the best of clothes and live in very comfortable environments that are artificially maintained, probably with their petroleum products, except that's polluting the world and is ultimately going to bring us all. My name is Ray Hill, and the name of this show is Houston Media Source Public Access Public Affairs. This has been a special broadcast from the front lines in North Dakota. What is going on behind me is a eagle's eye view of the encampment there. No small deal. There's a lot of people there. And a lot of people there who are adventurers trying to protect the dignity and the liberty of the Lakota people, their past generations, their ancestors, and their future generations, their children, and their children's children. What is the odds that they're going to be successful at turning the tide? Not very good. And with the change of administration, it gets worse. Thank you very much for watching this, but I want you to know that this institution where I sit, Houston Media Source, is the opportunity for you, no matter what your beliefs are. You don't have to agree with me. You're probably better that you don't. But if you want to come down here and create media to express your point of view, to expose your community, to expose your neighborhood, to expose your culture, we've got the equipment, the studios, and the cameras, and we even have this channel on the television. And if that doesn't reach you, you can get us off the internet globally. Houston Media Source is an institution for use by people for causes and issues important to people. My name is Ray Hill. I am honored to be the host tonight of this special Houston Media Source Public Affairs Public Access program. Thank you very much for watching. Tell your friends this program will be repeated on this television channel several times. Tell them to watch it. It's worth the view. Thank you.
This is ground zero. This is more than the pipeline, and we all know it. This is a place where we have come together to say no.
Everything you see, from the trees to the land to the food to the horses to the fish, everything in this world was made with water.
This river here, it feeds our people back home on our reservation, along with 18 million other people.
We are here stopping Dakota Access from going under the Missouri River.
Water is life and it is sacred, not just to the indigenous, but to all nations all around the world.
It's a form of a living being that's supported us and that we have a connection with. That's the thing that's going to sustain not only you, but your children.
It's really important that we stop this pipeline because it will eventually break and it'll poison all our water.
It's not if it will leak, it's when. All the evidence does not suggest it, it proves it.
We were put on this earth to protect our mother. And it's a simple job that we've neglected for way too long. If anybody ever feels like they don't have a purpose, they have a huge purpose. We're protecting the water because we know we're fighting extinction.
It's going to be our #1 issue. I mean, you look at what people are buying right now in terms of land grabs, it's all related to water. And it's ours, it's everyone's.
We're just taking and taking and taking and taking from the earth. And for earth to heal herself, we have to protect that water.
We're at a crisis point.
Mother Earth is crying for help. There is no other planet to jump on.
We are at a stage where it seems that we do not have a say in the most fundamental thing that Mother Earth has provided for us, and that is the ability to survive. We're up against billion-dollar corporations that have clearly influenced the state authorities here. They are there to protect the interests of that company.
These are people that swore an oath to protect us. Instead, you're engaging in brutality.
We're at a point where law is not for us. Whatever you've heard from the president on down, the Dakota Access Pipeline has stopped, they have not, nor have they ever stopped.
If you're not careful with your greed, you can really damage the earth for your children.
The only thing that will stop Dakota Access Pipeline is our continued pressure. That is our strength. The bigger the numbers, the louder the voice.
You can lock us up at the gates of hell and we won't back down. We will stand our ground. We need to stand together in unity and solidarity.
This is the start of the climate revolution. It's real. You need to mobilize.
We need boots on the ground.
Come and support.
If you can come out here, get out here.
This movement is something that I've wanted to be a part of for my whole life.
I feel like I couldn't be anywhere else but here right now.
Mini-Wachoni means water is life. Just because it's a simple truth does not mean that we can sit by idly.
We're fighting for people's health. We're fighting to heal Mother Earth.
It's for our children and your children.
Stand with us.
It's time. Now.
There's potential to really transform our relationship with each other and our earth.
Help us. We need your voices.
Mini-Wachoni.
Come with us.
The time is now.
There's only one God, one prayer to save the earth.
Gain understanding. Follow your heart. You know what's right. Come human with me again.